I'm with Phil Curtis at the Myers Family Art Gallery on the second floor of Potter Center on the Jackson College Central campus. And this gallery is hosting a special exhibition by Philip C. Curtis. It's your uncle.
That's correct.
Now tell us a little bit about how this exhibition and the Jackson Symphony Orchestra concert are collaborating.
Okay. Well, it started about a year ago. Matt Aubin, the conductor of the symphony, was at my house, and I have a fairly extensive collection of my uncle's artwork, and he was very much intrigued with the work and came up with this novel idea of perhaps retaining a composer who would compose a concert piece that would be commensurate with my uncle's art and then perform it at a symphony orchestra, which is coming up March 25th. And I thought it was a great idea, and then thought we could bring in some of the paintings for the public to see here in Jackson again.
And the pieces that you've chosen, they're all music centric. There's instruments or something about music in every one of the pieces. But I understand that that was a common theme in a lot of his art. This is just some of the music affiliated art.
Right. He was very fond of music. I used to go to his studio and hang out when I was in college, and he would also always have classical music playing in the background while he painted, and always had a lot of musical themes, bands, solo instruments and things in a lot of his paintings.
Was he a musician as well?
No, he wasn't.
Well, he's a very important figure in art, but particularly for our community, because Philip C. Curtis was actually born in Jackson. Was any of his art, was he active as an artist while he was in Jackson?
Really, his art career started when he went to Albion College from Jackson High School. And it was kind of unique because Albion was just starting their art school program at the same time he went there. He was intrigued. One of his professors was very important in his career, and that's where he got started over in Albion.
We're looking through a couple of the books that contain a lot of his work. He was very prolific. Do you have any idea how many pieces he's painted over the years?
I think probably 300 to 400 pieces. We still manage his charitable trust, and we have approximately 150 pieces of his work in our charitable trust. The Phoenix Art Museum has a large number, probably between 75 and 100 pieces.
Oh, wow.
Of his work in their collection, and they have a room that's specifically dedicated just to his work at the Phoenix Art Museum, which is really great.
Yeah, and besides that museum, his work is in several important museums and galleries, including the National Gallery in Washington and one of the Smithsonian galleries.
Yeah, he's well represented nationally, which is great. We're very proud of that.
Now, the concert that is happening on March 25th, that contains a special piece that was commissioned just for this concert that ties in this exhibition and portraits of the exhibition.
Yes. And the composer, who's a young man from Ann Arbor, was particularly intrigued with the painting solo, which is the instrument up in the tree there, and that was kind of the basis for his composition, which I'm anxious to hear.
It seems like you can identify his work just from sight. I had a chance to see several of his pieces at the Ganton Art Gallery a few years ago when you had an exhibition there. He does have a style which I think is interesting because it's spanning several decades of his work. He painted right up until I think, the 90s, right?
Yes, yeah. And he started out in New York and was kind of influenced by the latter stages of the Impressionist era. At that time, you can see that in some of his earlier works that we have over here. But then he developed more into a surrealist or type painter, and coupling a lot of Victorian Jackson scenes in the desert, which is kind of unique.
Yeah, you'll see a tuba in the middle of the desert, and he was in the Southwest for a good part of his career.
Yes.
Obviously, the influence of his environment you can see in his work.
But he still always reflected back to his childhood days in Jackson, and as I say, there were a lot of pictures. One of them, one of my favorites, is called Grandfather's House, which is a Victorian house in the Jackson area, which he loved.
So we could find that house? It's identifiable?
I think it's gone now,
okay.
unfortunately. But,
What are your memories of your Uncle Phil?
well, it's interesting to me because he moved to Arizona in the early 50s or late 40s, I guess. And I, as a young man, never really knew him very well. I remember him coming to Jackson for the funeral when my grandfather died, and that was one of the first times that I'd ever met him. And then I was fortunate enough to go to the University of Arizona for my first 2 years of college, and that's when I really got to know him, because I would go from Tucson up to Scottsdale and spend the weekends with him, and it was a great experience. And then over the later years, I would spend a lot of time with him, travel to Arizona to help him out with some legal matters and just business matters, and he became a second father to me.
And it seems like the trust has been responsible for making him more famous after his death.
Yeah, that's one of the things. He died in 2000, and Janie Ellis and I were the trustees of his charitable trust. One of our main missions is to continue to perpetuate his art career and his artwork, and also to financially support the arts in general.
There's several books that have been written about him that include his art, and those books will be available as well. I think
Yes.
at the concert, people will be able to check those books out.
We also have some prints of his artwork that are available for people that might be interested as well. So,
Do you have a favorite piece yourself?
I have a lot of favorite pieces. It's very difficult. I think one of my favorites is the gentleman playing the violin in the chair out in the desert there. That's one of my favorites. That's from my collection, and it's over the years out in Arizona, particularly, that a lot of his patrons who were older at the time and who some of them have passed away, and their family isn't quite as interested in the artwork as they were, and so a lot of his paintings have become available on the secondary market, and I've been able to acquire some of those as a result of that.
And he kept his connection, or at least Albion College kept its connection to Philip Curtis.
Yes. Yeah, we had a great exhibition, as you and I were talking about earlier, back in, I believe it was 2007, and Billy Weckry of Albion College's art department developed a senior program for her art students, and their whole year-long project was developing this exhibition that they had at Albion College, including developing a pretty extensive book for that exhibition, which she did a wonderful job and a great experience for these students. They even got to go to Arizona and see where he worked and lived and everything. So it was a great experience.
Well, the project was very cool, and it's been documented in a book, which is part of the exhibit here. And one thing I learned when I came to this exhibit the first time was it wasn't just paint on canvas. He also designed furniture, and there's some of that here too.
Yes. Yeah, he was close friends with Frank Lloyd Wright out in Arizona, and the furniture, as you can see, if you're familiar at all with a Wright style and things, kind of picked up on some of that. It's obviously mid-century modern type furniture, and was pretty unique at the time, for sure.
Yeah, it's even got some cantilevers in the construction of that
Yes.
furniture.
Yeah.
So this exhibit is now on display at the Myers Family Art Gallery on the second floor of Potter Center at Jackson College. So it's open during college open hours, so come out, check it out, make plans to attend the concert and hear the debut of the piece that was inspired by one of these paintings here. And there are a number of activities that go along with the concert on the day of the concert. So it should be a fun night.
Should be. And the art will be up here until the end of the month. So 8 to 5, I believe, are the normal business hours here during the weekdays.
Well, Phil, thanks for sharing your uncle's art with the community, and we'll look forward to the concert coming up on the 25th.
Thank you, Art. We appreciate it.